guys, here come the dollies. They got fresh sinkers, hot coffee, and the sweetest smile.
Welcome back to the Clubmobile, everybody. We're so happy to have you.
Hello, welcome back, everyone.
We are diving into, I think this is a great topic because it's something that I don't know that a lot of people are aware of. So this week we're going to be talking about fictional women during World War II, otherwise known
Mm.
as the ideal woman.
Yeah, I thought that was a really great title because while these women were fictional, they were all sort of revered as the ideal woman and who to aspire to be. And in a lot of cases, it was impossible during World War II to adhere to all of these requirements that were put out. And you can
Yeah.
imagine the pressure that homemakers and women were facing in the face of rationing and, of course, the ongoing war overseas. Um, a lot of women could not stick to these requirements. So a lot of women could not stick to the instructions they were given because it was fundamentally impossible. So I thought labeling these women as the ideal woman really brought home that nothing much has changed
Yeah.
since that time.
There really is no ideal woman. And you could ask, 30 different ladies and 30 different men
Mm.
today, what's the ideal woman? And you'll get 60 different answers.
Yeah, you will get so many different answers. And even now, for homemakers and working mothers, the requirements are insane.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
to be the perfect mother, the ideal woman, there's a lot of pressure. And with how easy life is now, I
I
can't
feel like there's still a
imagine,
lot of pressure.
yeah, I can't imagine being under this much pressure
No,
and
and I feel like you
have
understand this a bit more than I do because you are a wife and a mother,
mm,
and, you know, you have a different set of expectations for yourself
yes,
and for
yeah.
your family than I do. I'm just
Mm.
here kind of floating, or I'm just kind of here floating around doing my own thing.
I'm just here for
Um,
fun.
but I am very hyper aware of what men in society might classify as the ideal woman, and how for certain men it looks different. You might meet a man who
Yeah.
works in finance, and his ideal woman is somebody who's dressed to the nines and is waiting for
Hmm.
him at home every night with a cocktail. You
Like in
might
the
meet a
50s, yeah.
guy like in the 50s. You might, an older gentleman, maybe of my dad's age in his 60s,
Mm.
who you ask what's the ideal woman, and he'll describe his wife who goes out to work every day and comes home, and it's just, the two of them maybe sitting down to dinner together,
Mm. Yeah.
and just recapping their day. And the ideal woman is somebody he can sit down with and share time with.
Yeah.
It's different for everybody, but I think the fact that during the war, media fabricated these women, these fictional women, to kind of boost morale and remind the women that were home that, hey, you can do it. You can do this, you can get through it.
Yeah. You can do anything. You can laugh in the face of adversity and you can still feed your
Yeah.
family and here's a cookbook to help you when everyone's allowances was different,
Yeah.
everyone's capabilities were different, everyone's financial situation
Yeah.
was
And
vastly different.
we did already have an episode on Rosie the Riveter, who,
Yeah.
surprise if you didn't know, she's a fictional woman. There was
Yes.
no one model for Rosie.
Mm-hmm.
The women were the Rosies at that point.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite, and maybe because I love to bake and I'm like, a real kitchen person,
Yeah.
Betty Crocker. And I didn't know this until recently, that Betty Crocker was created she was created well before World War II. She was created in
Yes.
1921,
Yeah.
by a woman named Marjorie Husted. And she
Mm-hmm.
was an employee of the company that would later be known as General Mills.
Yes, she was part of an independent company that was then merged into another, and then they became General Mills. I believe this was like in the mid 1920s. So
Yeah,
Betty Crocker had been around and in people's lives
well before World
many,
War.
many years before World War II.
Yeah,
And I think one of the main things that attracted this woman, Marjorie, to make a fictional woman was that she herself obviously worked full time.
yeah,
Right after she had made Betty Crocker, I believe it was through a competition where people could design Betty's signature or her autograph. Um,
yeah. Which is, I think, what
Marjorie
we
has,
see on the boxes now. It's
yeah,
that logo that you see on the boxes.
Marjorie herself was then promoted as director, and her department was labeled the Betty Crocker department, essentially. She
Yeah, the
was
Betty
the head
Crocker
and the face of
homemaking
it.
service. You think about, like, how many how many people on names on the shelves at the grocery store that we see today were, like, created for one reason
Yeah.
and have become absolute household names and staples in so many people's
hmm
households.
And a lot of them weren't even real. They were all,
Yeah.
a lot of them were pretty much the metaphor of the perfect woman or the ideal housewife.
Yeah, or like
Um,
a group of people, like, would cover a
yes.
demographic in a sense.
During World War II, Marjorie Husted, assisted by her department, the Betty Crocker Homemaking Service, they created an outreach program to help housewives adjust to their new normal in the face of rationing. And it was named Betty Crocker's Home Legion. So, despite this ideal housewife being fictional and all of these expectations being laid out for this new normal, they still tried their best to assist and to help women in this difficult time, which I think is really, really nice.
Absolutely. I mean, America was on the shores of, the opposite shores of the war,
Mm,
not directly in the face of the fighting, and yet there was still so much war present in their everyday lives that to
yeah.
have something that would kind of give you, as maybe a housewife whose husband is overseas serving,
Mm-hmm.
or a mother whose young boys are overseas, and you're looking for something to kind of give you a little oomph to go through your days, to have
Yeah.
this group of women to kind of remind you that, hey, you can do this. You're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not the only woman whose husband or mother. Here are 50 other women in your community.
Yes.
And then you can, as a woman, you can band together and find comfort and find solace. And she did. I feel
hmm
like the purpose of Betty Crocker was just for so much more than, here's a book of things you can cook with your rations.
Yeah, it gave women a sense of community. They could all
Hmm.
bond over the same thing. They could all bond over the fact that perhaps their husband had been sent overseas to war. They could all bond over the fact that they didn't have much and yet were expected to still provide healthy meals and constructive
Right.
dinners and things like that. So there was a way to make all these women essentially band together. And
She became so
I think they
popular too.
mm,
She was second, she was the second most popular woman behind the First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt in 45.
isn't that crazy? There's Eleanor Roosevelt, and then there's just some
This
woman
woman
that
who
had
was
been invented.
fabricated out of thin air
Yeah,
as a symbol.
and Betty Crocker was only invented because the before the company became General Mills, obviously in magazines and things, they would put their address, and every single day they would get numerous letters with questions
Hmm.
about baking. So in the end, rather than like personally signing each letter with the tip or the trick that the sender wanted, they ended up just making Betty Crocker and putting the questions and answers in women's magazines, which
I
also became extremely popular during the war because, again, it
Yeah,
was a way for women to find this, and
comfort
it
and
was a way,
solace.
yeah.
I think I have an
So
old Betty Crocker cookbook somewhere in my house, which
I
was
need to get one.
gifted to me, I think, by my landlord. believe it
Oh
or
wow.
not. She was like, here, I get a lot of my cookie recipes out of this. I know my mother has a Betty Crocker
Yeah.
cookbook somewhere, which was my grandmother's that my mother just, ended up
Yeah.
with. But I think mine is Betty Crocker. But I
And
mean,
there's so many
there's so
more
many
like
variations of
modern,
them too.
yeah, so many more modern iterations as well now
Mhm.
because it feels like Betty Crocker adjusted to the times as things wore on, and she's still so popular.
I mean,
She's
you
still,
go buy boxed cake mix or boxed muffin mix,
it's
anything
gonna
in the
be,
grocery store,
yeah,
she's sitting right there next to Duncan Hines.
yeah, exactly.
And I nine
And
times out of 10, if I'm in a pinch and need to grab something like that's boxed, I will
you're
grab
gonna
Betty
go for
Crocker.
that.
I will.
Yeah, never fails. You know
She's
it's
tried and
good.
true. I will grab Betty Crocker.
Yeah, and the fact that it's provided comfort over so many years to so many people, and there is now the modern like variations and iterations of
Hmm.
her, and she's gone along with the times. I think is something quite admirable, honestly. The fact that the company saw how popular she was all the way back from the 20s, and she essentially saw a group of housewives all the way through the war,
Oh, yeah.
and it's still helping people learn how to bake. I think, I don't think they expected it to happen.
No.
I don't think they expected it to be this popular ever.
Do men in media ever expect something with a woman at the front to blow up, though?
No,
Especially
never.
back then, especially during the war. Is it
Yeah,
ever expected
especially
that
then.
this, right? And they always sound and look so surprised. You're like, oh, well,
Mm,
she's very popular. Oh, well, I guess women really like her. And
mm,
it still blows my mind to this day that like men will feign shock at something
yeah.
as simple as a woman branded company or a woman
Mm,
branded logo just being popular among women. And it's like, we're here
yeah.
too. We're here too.
Uh, exactly. A woman doing anything, I feel like, especially during World War II, was sort of looked at with a side eye by a lot of men, especially this next gal who we're going to be talking about. We would like to refresh everyone's memory on Rosie the Riveter.
My
Feel free
favorite.
to go back and listen to our previous episode, but we thought that
Yes.
she fits in so
She
well
does
into
deserve a
here.
second. She deserves a second moment. Let's call it an encore for Rosie.
An encore for Rosie, even though that Betty Crocker was named the second most popular after Eleanor Roosevelt, I do think that somewhere Rosie should be top three
She should.
because she's one of the most recognizable symbols of the war.
Oh my gosh, even to this day.
Yeah, even now you're still getting magnets and postcards with the "We Can Do It" symbol and her little flexed arm and her red headscarf.
There's a whole section
Um,
on Rosie the Riveter at the National World War II Museum. And
mm,
it's all about, there was a whole room where they had like machinery that was riveted and like interactive. If you wanted to try riveting, they had the riveting gun there. But
oh, that's cool.
unfortunately for me, the riveting gun was out of service when I was there, but probably fortunately for my safety and the
No,
safety of my
honestly,
family who I was with, the
yeah.
riveting gun was out of
I was
service.
about to say
Oh.
they did that on purpose.
But they also have at the museum, not at the museum, at the hotel across the street that's
Mm,
associated with the museum up on the roof. It's called Rosie's on the Roof. And it's a whole
that's
Rosie the Riveter
cute.
themed rooftop bar. And there's pictures of pictures of real women working in factories and working in plants. And then there's, renderings of Rosie. And then there's the Norman Rockwell Rosie. And then the lyrics to her song. Because Rosie has a song, guys.
It's by the Four Vagabonds, and it's very good.
I love the
It's
Rosie
had it
song. I
had
love
a
the
cute
Rosie song.
little.
But every time somebody plays, I hear it, it's like it gets stuck in my head for like at least 3 days minimum.
It's such an earworm,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I think that was the purpose, and I'm really happy that that was the purpose of it. Honestly, um, mentioning the Norman Rockwell design, that one was the one that was sort of taken out of
It was
circulation because
too, she wasn't feminine enough.
yeah, she wasn't ladylike enough. So for people that haven't seen it, go Google it. Google Rosie the Riveter by Norman Rockwell.
I think that's more
Um,
of an accurate rendering of Rosie
I
than
agree.
than the one that really made it
Yeah.
made its mark. I love them both, but I do think that Norman Rockwell's rendering of Rosie is the true, accurate depiction of what
And
what a Rosie was like.
I have such a soft spot for that one because she's a bigger lady, she's wider, her hair is crazy. She's not wearing much, if any, makeup.
She's
And I
wearing her
love
coveralls, and she's just
wearing her coveralls.
sitting on something. She's sitting on like a
She's sitting on a wall and
sitting again,
she's
leaning against the wall. She's got the Riveter
munching.
gun over her leg, and she's just eating her lunch.
She's eating her little sandwich, and if you look down at her feet, she is
This is your favorite part, I know.
stomping. Yeah, she's stomping on a copy of Mein Kampf, and I think it's such a symbol of patriotism and, you know, in the face of fascism. I like how she's essentially giving the middle finger without giving the middle finger.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of what put people off, was that it was a woman having an opinion, even though this was a fictional woman that was drawn by a man. I think it was the fact that this woman had an opinion and she would probably open her mouth and say it, but she was too busy eating her lunch to physically say it. And I think that's what turned people off, because the newer version, she is made up, her hair is neat in her scarf, her mouth is closed. She's very serious looking.
That's a good observation. Her mouth is closed.
Whereas the Norman Rockwell one, her lips are pursed because she's trying to eat. She's a normal woman, whereas the second iteration, again, is a higher expectation of what a Rosie should look like. They should look ladylike and made up, and their mouth should be closed.
It's the preferred version of a woman to a man of that time.
Yeah.
It is.
That's why I like the Norman Rockwell one so much, because you could tell that this woman is opinionated and she will say anything that comes into her head. But the second iteration, she just looks compliant.
She's the compliant version.
Yeah. As beautiful as she is and as great as it is, and I'm so happy that women have a symbol for themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
She's the more ideal version because she looks serious and she doesn't look like she's going to say anything aside from "we can do it."
Right.
Whereas the Norman Rockwell version, her opinion is right there under her foot. Literally. It is right there. Foot. Of course, men were not particularly happy with women working, but there was just no other option.
They had no choice.
Been drafted.
They had no choice at that point. It was either literally send in the girls, or you know, that was it. We were going to lose the war.
Yeah.
And the symbol of Rosie alone pushed more than 6 million women into the workforce during the war.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
And then I feel like they were thrown away the instant all these
men
came home. And a lot of these men came back with horrendous PTSD. Of course, it wasn't known as that back then.
They just called it shell shock.
Yeah, when you think about it in terms of life today, you can't imagine that all these men have fought overseas for so many years, and then they're expected to come back and essentially fix stuff that had been broken because they had not been there. Does that make sense?
It does. I always go back to that line, that moment in A League of Their Own, in the movie, where at the end, Ira Lowenstein is sitting with Mr. Harvey, and they're watching they're watching the girls play, and Harvey says, "I love these girls. I don't need them, but I love them." And Lowenstein looks at him very confused, and Harvey says to him, "Well, you know, Roosevelt said, you know, we're winning the war. Baseball won't need to be fully shut down. So I don't need the girls. Essentially, I don't need them anymore for another season." So Lowenstein basically lobbies for them, which is surprising of a man in the 40s, that he's lobbying and fighting for the girls. Yeah. And it's a line that Harvey says. He goes, "Well, what do we tell the men coming back from war? Do we send the men coming back from war to the kitchen?" No, you wouldn't send a man coming back from war to the kitchen so that his wife can continue riveting. But at the same time, these women just gave you their all. They worked, went home, took care of the kids, cooked, cleaned, got up, did it all over again.
Did everything
Whereas
by themselves.
essentially back in the day, a man would get up, go to work, come home, and his house would be clean, his laundry would be done, his food would be on the
Mm-hmm.
table for dinner. He wouldn't have to do anything else. She would bring him his pipe and his slippers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And a woman was doing her job and then some as a homemaker and as a breadwinner. And a lot of men
Yeah.
just refused to accept it.
No,
And the idea of having a man do what she did, we could never.
we could never do that. And
We
I
could
think as well,
never.
there was all these expectations on working women to be the perfect Rosie in their own way. And also, while they are doing that, they're expected to be the Betty Crocker of the house. So they're
Yeah.
expected to be both of these fictional women. So the list of expectations with both of those, how are you going to keep up? You're doing everything literally by yourself.
Yeah.
You're doing everything plus more. You're taking care of the kids, you are cooking meals, and then, in the morning for 8 9 hours a day, you are going to work and replacing a man. So you're not only doing your own job, you're doing your husband's job too. So having to essentially be both of those women must have been exhausting for every woman that was working, even for homemakers. They were expected to be just like Betty.
Women being expected to be both is a lot to it's a lot to carry. And
Mm.
not all of them were just on their own. A lot of them had kids. So it was like triple. And I think the fact that a lot of this was put into visual aid for men at war,
Yes.
it was entertainment for men overseas.
Yeah,
It became
women
entertainment.
became entertainment.
There were, cartoons and comic strips, and it was for them, it was, wow, look what the girls are doing back home. Or, oh, my wife went out and got a job. Or, but, oh, your wife went out and got a job because otherwise your
There'll be
wife won't eat, your
nothing.
kids won't eat. There won't
You
be
won't come
any,
back home to
you'll
anything.
come back home to nothing. There will be no
Literally
house.
nothing.
There will
And
be nothing.
a
But,
lot of these women, a lot of these women in the comic strips were not. They were very obviously very very fictionalized.
oh, yeah.
They were not of an average American woman body type. They were
And they
not
were
of an
dolled
average.
up. They were
They were so dolled up.
more on the they aired more on the side of a pinup, but they were
Yes, they were
still
pin-uppy.
cartoonish.
They were cartoonish, they were pin-uppy, but then they were sort of shown as a real enough woman that it wouldn't be unlikely to meet
like
someone.
kind of risque but innocent. Like, maybe the
Yeah,
dress was coming off the shoulder, but her eyes were very wide and her cheeks were very rosy because she was
hmm
shy, but still
sexy but wholesome
sexy but wholesome.
is how they
Um,
were described. You could look at them, but you could also get married to them and start a family with them. So
yeah.
after you've got over how hot she is, you can then
Oh yeah.
do the rest of it. Two of my favorites. One is Lace, and she was in Mail Call. She first appeared in 1943, and she's described as having dark brown hair, a pal to the soldiers. So she was just a gal. Um, she was described as risque dressed or undressed. So I think that means she had like a big chest
Mm.
at the time. That's how they would describe it, but still innocent in spirit.
Not shockingly, she was created by a man.
She was created by a man. His name was Milton Caniff, but he never got paid. He never got paid for his illustrations. This was his donation to the war
Yeah,
effort.
he donated
I
this to the
believe.
war effort, which,
I believe he was too old to enlist, and I believe he was too old to be drafted. So this
okay.
was his way of serving, essentially. It was titled Mail Call, spelled Male, call, as opposed to, mail.
Right.
And it was seen in more than 2,000 military newspapers, and it was also put in civilian newspapers. So everyone got to see Lace,
Everyone got to see this.
and
This
everyone
wasn't
got
really
to
just
enjoy.
for,
Wasn't just for servicemen, it was for everyone, because again, you're going to meet someone like Lace on the street as a homemaker, or you're gonna meet her
Absolutely.
if you enlist and she's, one of the gals that has
Right.
volunteered with the Red Cross, or she's one of the gals that's enlisted in the WAC, the waves. She was supposed to be revered as like the all-American gal who did anything and everything, but she was still sexy
Right.
and she was still a man's gal.
She
Still a
was.
man's gal. There is a lot about lace in Our Mother's War by Emily Yellen that we have described as the encyclopedia, but then Sage corrected us and said anthology, which I
It
thought
is
was
really the
way
anthology.
better. I thought was way better than encyclopedia.
Hmm.
But this is what Caniff had to say about his creation of Lace. Miss Lace became the central figure, both because she had won and because a pretty girl is a nice thing to look at, even if she is a paper doll. The name Lace sounded feminine. It was short and easy to remember. The strip's title was suggested by the camp newspaper service for its obvious twist on a familiar phrase. One of my favorite strips from it. Lace receives a letter from a GI and it reads, Dear Miss Lace, since you are the only glamour girl most of us guys ever see, we'd appreciate it if you'd show up in real pin-up outfits, like the movie stills. Dog-faced Dan. And then in the next frame, she's reading the letter in a black bra, underwear, garter belt, and stockings, reacted by trying to figure out how to accommodate the soldier while still observing proper decorum. So, of course, she was still concerned about keeping it clean.
Mm.
In the last frame, back to her original skimpy outfit after trying on a bunch of outfits that are trying to look sexy yet wholesome. She says, Dear Dan, I guess you're stuck with me the way I am, not pinned up. Approximately yours, Lace. So she was funny. She was fun, and she was funny, and she was
She
just one of the
was.
gals.
She
One of the
was.
gals. Which I really, really like about her was that she was snappy and funny. And again, I think
I like that
these
bit with, I
men.
guess you're stuck with me the way I am, which is basically her cute way of saying tough shit. You want me to look like this? Well, I don't want to look like this, so tough
So
shit.
tough shit.
But she's
Exactly.
got to be cute and funny because that letter's going back
Yeah.
to a GI somewhere.
And then that's another expectation upon women after they've baked through the Betty Crocker cookbook. They've been at work for 8, 9 hours being a Rosie. Now you got to come home and be funny and cute.
I live
Got
alone and I
to
don't want to come home and be funny and cute.
exactly. Why would you, after all that, why would you want to? The list of expectations just grows and grows
It
for these
does.
women.
It does. It does.
It's an impossible thing to adhere to. Even now, it's impossible. So I can't even imagine.
I don't know how you
Again,
do it.
I am tired
I'm coming
all
home
of
to
the
mind
time.
just myself, right?
And
And
even
I'm
that
like,
is
and even that,
difficult.
I'm like, some nights I get home from work and I'm like, ugh, I have to
Yeah, no,
cook.
thank you.
I have to
Yeah,
cook. I have to do stuff here after I did stuff
did
there
stuff
all
there.
day.
Yeah, and then
No.
these women had to come home and be cute and funny in a letter to a man that was, being traumatized in the face of war.
Yeah.
What a what a mess. What a time. There was um another
Oh,
cute girl in
yes.
the
I
comic
do love
strips.
her.
She's my favorite for obvious reasons.
Her name is Winnie the Whack. You should
I
go
did
as
not
Winnie.
name
I think you should
myself
go as
after
Winnie
her.
the Whack for Halloween this year.
I would love to. I would love to. But wearing the uniform, I think I've got nowhere to put a replica uniform. I need one of them mannequin things, and I don't have room for that.
No.
But
But
I
no,
would
for obvious
love to
reasons,
do
she's
that.
your favorite. She's my favorite too.
She's my favorite. Yeah.
Winnie the Whack was created by Vic Herman, who was a corporal in the
Mm-hmm.
army. And once his camp's newspaper editor found out that he was an illustrator, they asked him to create a weekly cartoon for the paper. So
Mm-hmm.
he created Winnie the Whack,
Mm-hmm.
which she really is. She's got, her uniform, her hat. She's definitely the more wholesome of the two
Yes, because she's serving.
because she's
She's not.
serving, which
Hmm.
I think it's very admirable that a man drew up a woman serving
I
instead
agree.
of a woman, you know,
At home.
half dressed or, more
Hmm.
visually pleasing to the eye.
Yeah.
He really, he acknowledged that these women were also doing their part and their job, and they
Yeah.
were part of the army as well.
And
Um,
she gained popularity because actress Carol Landis wrote introductions to the comic strip, and
yes.
she described her as cute, blonde, and pert and pin-uppy.
They were all very pin-uppy, but I think
Yeah,
at some point that just became the style of cartoon and artwork of the
it
time.
really
Like,
did.
because it was
Yeah,
really all that men who were serving wanted to see. It was either a pin-up or a picture
exactly.
of their wife.
This is what Carol Landis wrote in her introduction. Cute, blonde, pert, pin-uppy. That was Winnie. She wasn't any one whack in particular, just all whacks rolled into one, and one whack representing all.
Mm.
The whack who for so long now had been quiet, conscientious, thorough jobs, and receiving only a pittance of praise they deserved. A cartoon character glorifying them, laughing with them, rather than at them. Which I think is a great way to serve its purpose, was that finally they were recognized for the job that they were doing.
Yeah.
And I love the end of that quote where it was people were laughing with them, they were no longer laughing at them. But I hate to think that it was because she had been drawn as pin-uppy and cute.
Mm.
She was not your average looking woman. She was not what people expected to be serving or enlisted, because a lot of the rumor of women enlisting was that they were big and bold and brash, and they were one of the guys, derogatory one of the guys, not, oh, she's
More
good.
akin to the Norman Rockwell Rosie. Big,
Yes.
loud,
Yeah.
opinionated,
Hmm.
one of the boys. And
Yeah.
it was frowned upon.
There was such a difference between one of the guys derogatory and then one of the guys
Hmm.
respectfully, and that's still a thing
Yes.
now.
Oh,
that's still
absolutely.
that's still a thing today, and again, nothing
Absolutely.
has.
I see it at work all the time.
Mm, one of the lads, but then
One of
there's
the
also
lads. Oh,
terms of male attitude against women. One of the most popular creations in comic strips during World War II was Wonder Woman. And
I
she
always
was
forget that she
in,
was a World War II creation.
yes, not only that, she was an army nurse in the first few comic strips in All
Mm.
Star magazine. I believe in the very big, so in 1941, she is created by William Moulton Marston, who believed there weren't enough strong female role models for little girls. Marston was a staunch feminist. He was very much on the side of women. He did not believe that women got a fair shake. He was correct, obviously. Um, so, in the very beginning, I believe that Wonder Woman falls in love with an American soldier who is shot down on her Amazonian island. And
Yes,
when
I guess they
he's
kind of got that right in the first Wonder Woman movie. The Wonder
yeah,
Woman movie with Gal Gadot. The only difference is I
in the
think the
movie,
movie with Gal Gadot and Chris Pine is set in World War One, not World War Two.
not World War II. Yeah, so that's where it changes a little bit.
But it's still
Um,
very on it stays on the line of
it's yeah,
where Moulton wrote his comic.
exactly. Yeah. So when this American soldier is flown back for rehabilitation, Wonder Woman takes on the alter ego of a US Army nurse named Diana Prince. And obviously, through all this, she is turning into Wonder Woman and fighting Hitler and fascism. And I think it showed girls and young women that they were able to fight the war no matter
Yeah.
where they are, where they came from, and what they were doing. And I think it was such a powerful symbol. The alter ego Diana Prince quits nursing and joins the WAC, and she becomes a secretary of a colonel. So absolutely need to read the original
Yeah.
comic because that sounds really cool.
Hmm.
Does some
Definitely.
really good. Um, Wonder Woman fights against threats to America from the Axis powers, so she essentially tries to defeat Hitler, which I think is is really cool. I'm sure in the comic there's some pals against Hitler. You know when they
Oh
punch.
yeah. Oh,
Pow,
boom,
whack.
pow,
Love those.
Yes.
I love those. I think it's great.
She tries to defeat Hitler on her own, which is still very
Yes.
admirable. But also now you think about what they did in the movie. It's World War One.
Yeah, who's she fighting against?
She runs across, I think it's no man's land at the
Oh
Somme,
yeah, I
at the
do remember
Somme in
this.
France,
Yes.
and she deflects every bullet with her armor.
Oh yeah, yeah, I have seen this where she's like running in
She's
very slow
running and
motion.
she's deflecting every bullet with her wrist cuffs and her armor, and becomes a hero,
Mm, that's pretty cool.
which is it's very cool. It's very cool.
I
It paints a really good picture for little girls who want to
mm,
change the world, who
I
want to
really
do
wish they had
something to
kept
make an
it to
impact, right?
I wish they kept it to World War II though,
I do wish they had kept it
aside
to World War
from
II. I don't know why they didn't. They might. Oh no, I think I know why they might not have. I think I
go
can
on.
understand why they didn't. Because Diana Prince is the US Army, the pilot who gets shot down and lands on
Mm.
her Amazonian island. His name is Steve. And I think they didn't do it akin.
Oh,
This is my
yeah.
assumption. Why they didn't do it to World War II was because Captain
Yeah.
America's name is Steve and his origin story starts in World War II. So
Yeah. They were like, let's not.
DC probably decided not to claw at the heels of Marvel in that sense. So
Which I don't blame them
I'm
for,
thinking that's why they chose World War One.
which makes sense.
But
It
again,
does make sense,
it
but at the
makes sense.
same time,
But again, it does paint a lovely picture for little girls.
yeah. This is what Moulton said about his creation of Wonder Woman.
Mm.
At last, in a world torn by hatreds and wars of men, appears a woman to whom the problems and feats of men are mere child's play. A woman whose identity is known to none, but whose sensational feats are outstanding in a fast moving world. With 100 times the agility and strength of our best male athletes and strongest wrestlers, she appears as though from nowhere to avenge an injustice or right a wrong. As lovely as Aphrodite, as wise as Athena, with the speed of Mercury and the strength of Hercules, she is known only as Wonder Woman. Which again, I think sets a difficult expectation for women because not only are you expected to be pert, cute, sexy,
Yeah.
go to work for 8 hours, be Betty Crocker, you are then expected to change the world like Wonder Woman did.
And it's also very much it really does feed into today where like a lot of times you'll see like everybody's an influencer, right? Everybody's putting
Oh
women are
yeah.
putting everything on Instagram and they're like, here's how I
Mm-hmm.
work my full-time job and come home and cook dinner for my family of six. And then in the comments, it's like, wow, you're like Wonder Woman. Oh my God, she's Wonder Woman. And it's like, that's the expectation.
Yeah, it will always be the expectation of
Yeah,
women then and now
yeah.
to save the world, but also
She does it all like Wonder Woman. And it's like,
for everything else. I know.
ugh. Should
Isn't
she
it?
have to, at this stage in the game in 2026, should she have to do it all?
Should she have to? I think it goes back to
Should she choose to do it all is one thing.
should she have to?
Should she have to? Again, depends on her circumstances. Is she a single mother? She might
Yeah.
have to do it all.
It goes
But
back
if she's
to what
not,
we said,
does she have to do it all?
right. It goes back to what we said in the Rosie episode where it's she's obviously got her arm up and it's we can do it and we said we can do it all.
Yeah, we
And
can do it
now we're
all.
going with does she have to? Does she have to adhere to all these expectations? Does she have to
There's
do
a
this all by
thousand different ways
herself?
you could spin the phrase we can do it.
Yeah, I'm very happy that we have the freedom to do it.
Yes,
I just
that's
wish it
something
was
that
less alone.
I'm glad that as women today, we have the freedom, should we desire to do it all, that we
Mm-hmm.
can do it all.
Yeah.
I'm also glad that we have the option to say, I don't want to do it all.
Yeah, if I don't have to,
If I
I
don't
don't
have
want to.
to, I don't want to. I
Exactly.
shouldn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, like knowing that, I shouldn't have to. I don't
Yeah,
want to, but I can. If I
it's very
wanted to, I
comforting.
could, but I don't want to.
Yeah, it's very comforting. And I
It is.
do
It's very
feel,
comforting. It's very much like, somebody asked me once, well, don't you want to get married? I said, yeah, of course I do.
yeah,
So of course
just
I do.
not right
I
this
said,
second.
but you have to understand, I want to.
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't
have
need
to.
to.
Yeah, exactly. I
I
can
can
just,
I can cook for myself. I can keep my
mhm,
house clean. I can get up and go to work every day and I can pay my bills. I can do it.
yep,
I would like to have somebody to share my life with, but I don't
mm,
need somebody
exactly,
to cook and clean and keep my lights on. There's the difference, you know.
exactly.
And I thank thankfully we have that option as women today to say, yeah, I want
Yeah.
to. I don't need to, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to.
That's always the big thing. And I always feel really sad that these women had no
No option.
choice and so much pressure upon them to keep everything perfect
Yes.
and everything. They couldn't be emotional about it. They couldn't outwardly be
No. No,
pissed
it was
off that
frowned
they were,
upon if you cried about it, if you stomped your foot
yeah,
about it. Don't throw a tantrum. This is the way it is.
this is the way it is. And you have to pull
Yeah.
yourself up by the bootstraps
Yeah.
and do it.
Pull out the
And you have
bootstraps
to
and
do
do
it.
it.
You have to do it in the face of patriotism.
Your country needs you to do it.
Yeah. And obviously there was propaganda and ads and things in newspapers that were essentially saying, if you do all this, we will win the war and your husband will return home because you did all this.
Right.
And it must have felt very much not worth it if your husband did not return. Working yourself to the bone, all in the face of patriotism, and then he doesn't
Oh,
come back. So of course
right?
there's the grief. There's the grief of, oh my goodness, my husband is no longer here. On top of, if
I
you
did
do
what
all
they
this,
asked me to do,
and it still wasn't
and it
enough.
still wasn't enough.
And even in the face of all that, they are still expected to adhere to all these expectations.
I don't
And
know how my
no,
grandmother did it. She was newly married in 45. She was newly married on the heels of the war. She had a newborn
yeah,
son, and her husband was in Africa.
yeah.
She lived with her mother,
That
and
was very common, especially during the
grateful,
war.
luckily, she had one or two brothers who were either too old to join, or her
Right,
husband's
too young.
brothers, my grandfather's brothers, were maybe too old. One of his brothers was 4F because
Right.
he had, I think he only had one lung. I'm not sure. I'm not
Jesus.
specific. I'm not 100% sure of the details.
Right.
But she had some form of support. She had somebody there to kind of, help her out a little bit. But at the same time, there she is left to worry, is my husband coming home? Is my new
Yeah.
husband and the father of our first child coming home?
And
Or am
then
I
she
going to
goes to
live with
just
my
get on
mother
with it.
or are my mother and I going to raise this baby for the
Yeah.
rest of my life?
Haunting. It's a
It's
haunting
haunting.
thought.
It's very haunting. And she did everything that was asked of her.
Hmm.
She did everything that was asked of her. She still lost her husband very young. My dad still lost his father
Yeah.
very young, but
Yeah. He still he returned and
he
everything was done in the
returned. He
face
came
of,
back in 45. They had three more
yeah.
boys.
Everything was done in the face of patriotism and defeating
Hmm.
fascism and having to stick to every single expectation that was set out for you and not by real women. These women were
Yeah,
all thought up either by a woman that herself worked full time and while she promoted, hearth and home, she was still a working woman for General Mills, which at the
yeah,
time is excellent. But of course, she's still promoting the fact that women should stay home and take care of their husbands and take care of the house while the husband's away at war. And then on
exactly.
the other hand, you've got You've got men creating cute pin-uppy women, which is another expectation that cannot be stuck to, because when are you going to have the time to look cute and pin-uppy
Right.
when you're riveting for hours and hours? I think the only one that truly stuck to the belief that women could do it all was the man that created Wonder Woman, because he himself was a feminist. I feel like he was the only
I
one
would give a
of the
little credit
men
to I would
creating
give a little
women.
credit to Vic Herman
Yeah.
from Winnie the Whack as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even
Those two are the
though,
most realistic,
yes, exactly.
with the
They're the
exception of
most
Wonder Woman
realistic
being
ones.
from a secret Amazonian island
Amazonian Island, wanting
and
to
having
fly.
wild superpowers. The rest of
Yeah.
it is pretty believable. I think those two are the most realistic. But we want to know what you guys think. What's your take
Yeah. Yeah.
on Rosie and Betty Crocker, and then, somebody who is fictitious as Winnie the Whack or Wonder Woman,
Mm.
drop us a line. Let us know. We're
Yeah. Tell
curious.
us what's what. Yeah.
What's
Absolutely.
your opinion on it all?
Mm-hmm.
Especially because we
Exactly.
have such a nice split of female followers and male
Yeah.
followers. The demographic is really melded
Yeah.
for us. So
So that'll be interesting
it'll be
to
interesting
to
to
know.
see. It'll be interesting to see. We'll drop a
Yeah,
poll
I agree.
on our
Oh, yeah.
Instagram, and you guys can
That'll
pick
be
your
cool.
favorites maybe.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I like that.
Yeah. So until next time,
Yes, thank you for joining
for
us
all of
again.
our female listeners, remember you can do it. Even if you don't want to or don't need to, you can.
You can. And remember, sometimes you just don't have to.
And you don't have to. So until
Thank
next
you,
time,
everyone.
we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.